For an infamous ghost town of epic proportions, Chernobyl sure is a busy place. Past the guards, through the gates, and into this time capsule of the life Soviet, you must first find your way to the exclusion zone office, where the phone does not stop ringing these days. Marina Polyakova tells me it's mostly reporters calling, wanting to visit since the meltdown at Fukushima.
What am I paying for here? What am I getting for 1,064?
That's the entrance.
Paying the entrance fee, I remember many Ukrainians would like to open the place to tourists. A macabre theme park, to be sure.
Do you think tourists will come here?
People can come to the area to see everything themselves and then make their own opinion, she told me. Not on the basis of what journalists say about this place. No offense taken, I guess. But what a difference 25 years can make.
Good evening. In the news today, there was an accident at a Soviet nuclear plant causing some casualties.
2 days before the Soviet government announced the problem, reactor number 4 at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, 80 miles north of Kiev, blew up, spewing out more radioactivity than 100 Hiroshima bombs. With a cloud of fallout rapidly spreading north and west over Europe, there could be no state secrets. The Kremlin could not keep a lid on Chernobyl in every respect.
The results were alarming. Significantly higher than normal levels were recorded.
About 30 workers and firefighters died in the first week, untold numbers in the 25 years since.
It's very important to have these devices over
My
there.
guide inside the Chernobyl exclusion zone was physicist Gennady Milanevsky of the University of Kiev.
It should be 12 microrems per hour.
So this is a little bit.
It's twice more.
This is almost 3 times more background radiation just right
Two
here.
more times right here and more than background. But
So should we be worried about that?
no, not really.
Not that a big a
Not
deal.
really.
Not enough to cause harm over a short period of time.
For those who save a world.
We stopped by a monument to the firefighters who fought valiantly for 10 days to douse the nuclear inferno.
Are they heroes?
Yes, heroes. It's many of them received the dose not connected with life.
Yeah.
They were died in 1 month.
Really?
Yeah, they were sent to Moscow to special clinic for treatment, but they were died.
Helicopters finally smothered the fire with sand, clay, boron, lead, and liquid nitrogen. Eventually, 600,000 Soviet Army conscripts were dispatched to Chernobyl to shovel the lethal mess back into the remnants of the reactor so that it could be encased in steel and concrete.
Our job was to put that radioactive material back
I see.
to the reactor,
I
yes.
see. So they could cover it over.
That's exactly
So
right.
you were in very close proximity to this stuff.
Cannot be closer.
They called them liquidators, and Vasyl Kovatsiuk was one of them. A demolition expert, he spent 37 days working at the wrecked reactor.
If you think about that, you're getting more sick more than you're supposed to be. You're just thinking, I have to do this. This is my job. I have to finish this. I have to do this. Anyhow, somebody must do that.
Until he collapsed and had to be medevaced to Moscow. His wife Maria gave birth to a girl, Marta, in 1987. Just shy of her second birthday, she died suddenly of leukemia. In 1989, they had another daughter, Maria. She too contracted leukemia, but survived.
Is there a lot of cancer in your family?
Never had one.
Never.
Never.
Is there any doubt in your mind that the leukemia your 2 daughters had something to do with Chernobyl?
I have no doubt about that.
There's no doubt radiation causes cancer and genetic defects. The fast-moving subatomic particles plow into molecules with enough energy to knock loose electrons. The dinged molecules, called ions, can kill or damage cells. Enough of this will kill you quickly. Less damage can cause cancer, or if DNA is the target, create genetic mutations.
This is the town of Pripyat.
Pripyat was just one of 150 towns and settlements evacuated after the accident. More than 300,000 people were displaced, while a few hundred stubborn holdouts remain on their land. People like Maria, who at 75 says she is more worried about her cottage falling down than radiation. Children are the most vulnerable to the effects of radiation. After the explosion, there was a big spike in birth defects and thyroid cancer, extremely rare among children. And researchers say there is also a significant drop in the intellect in the region. At the dilapidated regional hospital closest to Chernobyl, the medical staff is convinced there is a direct link between chronic exposure to radiation and a whole assortment of diseases and deformities. I asked Dr. Konstantin Sherez if he is convinced people are more sick here because of the Chernobyl accident. Of course, he told me. Of course they are more sick. But the Chernobyl Forum, a group of UN agencies focused on the accident, estimates only 4,000 people died as a result of the explosion and its aftermath. One of the forum members, the UN Scientific Committee on the Effects of Atomic Radiation, issued a report contending there is no clearly demonstrated increase in the incidence of solid cancers or leukemia due to radiation in the exposed populations. Neither is there any proof of any non-malignant disorders that are related to ionizing radiation. However, there were widespread psychological reactions to the accident, which were due to fear of the radiation, not the actual radiation doses. But Ukrainian scientist Marina Naboka begs to differ. She told me people here get sick more often and they become more seriously sick. They receive little doses of radiation, but they do it on a day-to-day basis, and the second generation continues getting the radiation. Radiation contamination is very stubborn. Gennady Milanevsky took me to a place inside the exclusion zone, 30 kilometers or 18 miles around the plant, that is still heavily irradiated.
They call it the Red Forest because why?
They call it red forest because these strong radiations, the leaves of trees became red, not green.
They killed the trees.
The radiation killed pine trees in a 30 square kilometer, 11 square mile swath. As we hiked in, the Geiger counter got very excited.
All right, so now we're at 400 times. Are we okay?
Yes.
Are we safe?
All right. We're safe.
All right. Just checking. We just don't want to stay here too long, do we?
Yeah. If you put it on the ground, it became much stronger.
Oh, look at that. Look at that. 5.5 right there. It's 500 times right there. This used to be pine trees as far as you can see.
Yeah.
And the cesium came through here after the explosion, and that's and to this day is.
It's still there.
Are there animals that can live here or not?
No.
Milanevsky's colleague Tim Mousseau believes animals are the key to settling the debate over the long-term health effects of Chernobyl. He and his team have spent more than a decade studying birds in the Chernobyl region and beyond.
But it's clear that this low-level contamination is probably more dangerous in the long run than having a single hotspot.
In contaminated areas, there are half as many species and one-third the number of birds you would expect. Their brains are smaller. 40% of male barn swallows have abnormal sperm. 1 in 5 have strange colored plumage that makes it hard to attract mates. There are unusual beak deformities and large tumors that scientists have never seen before.
What, if anything, can we extrapolate between that bird population, that population of barn swallows, and humans?
I would argue that we're all animals, and birds are actually more similar to us than dissimilar to us.
Mousseau's colleagues are also looking at Chernobyl's grasshoppers. They frequently have asymmetrical wings. And fruit flies, which are easily impacted by radiation. Those found around Chernobyl have gray eyes instead of red and deformed wings. Biologist Irina Kozaretska studies the little bugs, in part because they only live about a month, meaning she can track genetic changes through many generations in short order. She worries about the sporadic funding for research that could lead to some definitive answers about the Chernobyl riddle. She told me this is the worst thing that can happen. If there are gaps in the research for 2 or 3 years, we cannot have this full picture. At the remains of reactor number 4, I saw the concrete and steel sarcophagus that was completed 6 months after the explosion.
Is it holding? Is it doing its job?
It's not carefully doing this job because it's many holes inside, and still in windy weather we have some dust coming outside.
Ukraine is asking the West for $800 million to pay for a new shelter over the old sarcophagus that would last 100 years. Beneath it all is a molten witch's brew of radioactive isotopes, including plutonium, which has a half-life of 24,000 years, meaning in 24,000 years, half of it will still be here, and 24,000 years later, half of that will still be here, and so on.
Do you think human beings are capable of keeping this thing safe for tens of thousands of years?
If he covers it, we try to keep it safe, but this place, this area will be still not good for life.
Forever.
Yeah, forever. Yeah.
And
That is problem for all nuclear power plants. When we build new nuclear power plants, always we create some headache for future generations.
And something for our generation to consider as we weigh the pros and cons of nuclear power.